Hi guys, and we're going to be doing a tutorial this evening. This time it's a request. A couple of people have shown interest on Random Platypus and on Lead Adventure Forum about how I made the shields for my goblins. Let's just give you a close up. It's quite straightforward really. It shouldn't be such a long tutorial, as you can see. So basically what you'll need is a bit of green stuff, some plastic card, obviously a pencil, a ruler, a metal rule, ideally, a knife, which I use this, which I know some people are like, oh my god, you use like a really cheapio knife, but I find it works the best. And also a pair of scissors, and I'll show you for that in a minute. Right, okay, so obviously the first thing you need to do is mark out how you want big your shields you want to be. So I'm just going to put an X on them so that you can see which ones are the shields on this. These are roughly about 1.5 centimeters in width by 2 centimeters in height. Now, I deliberately went for sort of big on goblins because they're meant to be, in my books, sort of cunning, not stupid, but slightly cowardly. So big shields means sort of less chance of them being easily hit. And also they can block passages off easily underground when they're these night goblins. Obviously you might want to make slightly smaller shields if that's what you want to do. Circular ones are obviously going to be a little bit tougher than the ones I've done, which are square. And square shields are really quite easy to knock out really. The officer one I literally just rounded off the corners from the same sort of size rectangular shape, and I stuck a boss on him, on his shield. I'm not really tempted to do it on the others, although some people have asked or suggested I should. Right, okay, so the first thing I would do is once you've measured out your shields, I wouldn't actually go straight ahead and just cut them out for a couple of reasons really. First one is that green stuff takes a little bit of a while to get going and ready to sculpt and anything anyway, which reminds me I need to get my sculpting tool. I have a couple of things that I use. Bear with me as I rattle around in my toolbox. I still can't find the one that I normally use, but these will do. Right. So what I do for little indentations, I tend to use a bit of an old compass. It's just an arm of an old compass. It's got a nice little point. So the things like the little rivet indentations, that's what I use that for. Otherwise I just use, at the moment I'm going to be moving on to clay shapers because apparently they're really cool, just various metal wax sculpting tools. They look a bit like dentist tools for those of you that like dentists, not me. This is actually my favourite one, which I'll show you. It's the one I use most of all. It's got like a spearhead at one end and it's got like a little tool the other. I also have an old dart, which is the same sort of effect as the compass, so it just depends what you've got kicking around. Right, an important thing with green stuff that I didn't learn until relatively recently, and it's a really hot tip. You don't want the section where the two in the middle meet, because they've been curing. And what that'll then tend to lead to is like a bit of hardening in there, and it can make it quite difficult to mix. So I tend to cut that off with scissors because it's easy when it's still in the plastic. I also tend to cut it off the strip with scissors as well. My suggestion is that you, I can get the plastic off, do all this first, and whilst that kind of has a little while to start going off, you don't want it necessarily instantly, you then get to go back onto the shields and start working on the shields. And the shields are quite quick to do. So I mean, I've got 4 shields there lined up. I actually need 5, but that's not a biggie. Move these bits of crap out of the way. Right, so obviously you've got the two colours there, and then you just start mixing them. So if you've not used green stuff before, don't be scared. It's stuff like this is exactly why, or the kind of things you want to do to practice getting the hang of green stuff, really, because it's not that it's difficult necessarily, it's just that it takes a little bit getting used to. It's quite tacky. You can see my fingers pull away from it. Obviously you've got blue and yellow and you want to mix it to green. So those of you who haven't used green stuff before, you see it's starting to take colour, but you can also see that it's still a bit swirly, different colours. You want it to be one consistent colour before you use it. So just going to keep kneading this off screen. Mixy, 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 mixy. Shall get my bits ready for that. Right. Okay, I think we're nearly there. Right, I don't know if it's clear necessarily on here, but basically it's quite a consistent colour now. It's one colour, there's no clear streaks in it. Now that is very soft, very easy to manipulate. You see that? It's like a bit like chewing gum almost. So I'm just going to pop that down, pop it near to these guys. Don't get it on any of your figures that are painted, because that'd be like, oh, it's horrible to get out, especially out of carpets and stuff. Just a bad idea. Right, so, okay. You got your shields, you got your metal ruler. Basically what I tend to do is, because you get plastic card isn't too thick, and if you've got some nice heavy duty scissors like these, it tends to slip with a knife if you're not careful, because it's a shiny surface. Do it gently but firmly, so you're scoring that line in there. Now another good thing about having these being goblin shields for me is that you don't have to worry too much about getting a bit rough. I actually then go and use the scissors to follow that score and cut them off. A little bit rough, but ready. You have your strip of shields now. So it's the point where I should just go. This is again. Some people have craft cutters, which are a bit like a little guillotine. It does a very similar job. I find these scissors are fine for things like this. If you want it to be precise, obviously use the knife. But I'm not so worried about being precise, because as you can see the goblin shields are a bit roughed up anyway, which is what I'll be doing next. Right, so that's 4 shields done. This bit gets a little bit messy. You may have little burrs around the edge, so you want to kind of sort them out a bit so that they don't stick up, because otherwise you end up, when you paint the shields, with this kind of nice little line around the edge outside of them. Right. So phase 1 of the shield. What you're kind of doing, I'm gonna get my pencil and draw it on so you can see what I'm talking about. This bit doesn't really need to be very neat at all. What you're trying to do is, there you go, define the planks. So again, at this point I would just use the knife to score. I do it freehand. Now it's a little bit dangerous. Some people may be a little scared. I tend to do it freehand. I've not slipped yet. You know, I'll probably do it now and you'll get to see a bit of a live injury, which is great. Let's have a look. So I'm literally just scoring a line down the shield to represent the planks on it, and I tend to on these try and divide it into 4 planks. Now the thing to remember is, again, it doesn't really matter if they're not dead straight. These are goblin planks. These are from sort of like a I like to think they're fighting in a sort of dark age kind of eerie kind of thing, so they're not worried about too much about straight planks, especially if they've nicked them from somewhere. In fact, I think it just adds to the effect. Right, so then what I've done is I've scored them. I don't know if this is going to be ever so clear. Oh, there you go, catch the light on a bit. There you go. Now, actually I'm going to use this because that one pops out. You get your pointed tool and you go down where you've made those scores. Let's see if I can get on there already. And just drag them down it. And what this does is make those scores a little deeper, but also slightly wider. Because later on, when you go to texture it a bit more, you want those to stand out a bit more than the grain texture that I tend to put onto the shields. So, right, so I've done that, and again, hopefully the light will help if I hold it at the right angle. Oop. Right, there you go. Right, so you've got to kind of, you can see the kind of scoring it's got on there. Right. The next bit is kind of just a bit of trial and error. I'm going to move this round so I can put my arms around it and hold what I'm doing in front of the camera. So the first thing I do is take the corners off a little bit. Maybe a bit rounded because they've been hacked a bit. And then where those where the planks hit the end, you want to define those a little bit. So I cut like a little V into the top. So it again, probably best to show you once I've done. Just probably best at first, not doing too much. But there you go. You can see already that you're starting to see a little bit of you know, rough edges and the difference between the planks. You want to do that at both ends. Obviously, with it being goblin shields again, I'm quite sort of, I'm just hacking away because I'm not scared. Any little, if it's too much, it's not a problem because we're going to be doing battle damage to these. So it's all good. It's all good. Right, so there you go. So you got both ends kind of hacked now. So you should start to see that you're getting a bit more. Now, obviously this is still quite uniform. So how do we go about changing that? Well, this is where you go and get a bit brave. So I'm going to cut right into at an angle one of the planks, and then I'll go back and redefine that edge of the plank so you still can see that it's a separate piece. So there you go. I've cut a slice off. Do the same elsewhere, or just cut into the ends, which is what I do a little bit. Okay, it's coming out anyway. Now, this was a suggestion by somebody on it was Wait What on Random Platypus, and he said, "Oh, why not have a couple of the planks kicked in a bit?" So what I'll do is I'll do on this one a sort of an extreme. I'll show you the two figures I've got that've got it. So right, if you look carefully, his shield is a little bit battered inwards, and his is more obviously battered inwards. This takes a little bit more I'm going to say skill. Patience is probably the best word. Flip this down to the... So what you need to do is designate the plank that you want to be smashed in a bit, and you need to do the small cuts along the length of the plank, the edge of the plank, to separate it from the others. So that needs to go all the way through the plastic card. That's the bad point about these slip sometimes. Probably getting a bit blunt, to be honest. So key is you don't want to make it all the way down. If you make it too far, it really unbalances the shield in terms of its integrity. So you do it too much and you risk the shield just breaking in half when you're trying to do the sort of bent inwards bit. So look, yeah, it's almost through. Yeah, bugger. It's probably a good reason why not to use this kind of knife, but there you go. Wait, what will tell me that he's told me so many times before. Such is the way. I'll go through now where I can see it's coming through and just even out. Right, so you can see there's 2 cuts on the back. You can see it really clearly of the 2 cuts coming through there. So all you do is you go across where you've made those cuts. You either do 1 cut or you can do 2 to make it look a bit broken, more broken, sort of uncleanly. But again, you want to make sure that's all the way through. So that plank, basically what you've done is you've defined that plank in the middle and you're kind of cutting it in half where those cuts down either side are. And after that you just need to get a bit brutal. It's not a problem. So they've been done. Again, I'm going to get my spiky tool. Nope, okay, not quite. Blasted thing. It wasn't like this the other day when I was doing it, trust me. Just for the camera. It wants to show off and make things difficult for me, which is fine. Right, I think I've got it now. So yeah, so obviously what you do is you want to be bending those pieces inwards. So that one went in quite nicely. And there you go. So hopefully you can see, yeah, it's finding it difficult with the white, I'm sorry, but plasticard comes in white. You can see it's now kicked in. Yep. So some people might want to detail the back as well, but that's just the same as the front. The next thing I do to add the detail to this is again get the knife. And you literally this time you just do lots of little light strokes down the length of the planks. Just make sure they're all over really. And again, this really just depends on what effect you want to have. I like doing it because it makes when you're painting it, it kind of almost instantly gives it a bit of texture that you wouldn't necessarily get. Especially if you use like washes and stuff, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately. So as you can see, I'm just literally almost drawing on the wood grain effectively with a knife. It's all good. Right, I think still need to just edge these bits. I'm just literally scoring these on the end to give it that kind of cut wood grain look. Right, again, now this might be quite difficult to see. Ah, there you go. Can you see how that's all roughed up? The final bit I would do, just for me, is I tend to carve into the end a bit. So as you can see there, I carved it out. So it's not just all square, sharp edges, because it's not what wood is like. So again, there you go. Yeah, you see that there. So again, just literally. Now I don't tend to, on the reverse of the shield, do the carving of the actual planks because you don't see it. But I do tend to do the grain lines. Just cut in a bit more onto that one. What I'll show you as well, to do the cut marks, again, rather than paint them on, I tend to actually score the card itself. So it's really simple. That one's not the best example because I probably need to ink that another time. So yeah, here we go. So these are actual cuts into the wood. Again, you could just paint the battle damage if you really wanted to, but I really like using inks and allowing the inks to do the work for me rather than having to paint fine lines and things and then shade like I've done here. Again, this is a good sort of demonstration of seeing where what I've done to rough up the edges. You can really see the grain a bit more on that. And I have done the grain on the inside of his shield as well, as you can see. Right, okay, so battle damage, really easy. You get your shield. You might want to damage a bit more around that, so where the punctured hole is, I'm just going to again use my knife, this time more heavily score because you want it to come across the grains. And sometimes I cut a little almost V into it just to make it look like it's been hit from a certain direction. So it's like a blow, because with a blade, with this blade, you'll just get a line in the plastic and it doesn't look a lot like a sword has hit it necessarily when it's on its own. So there you go. Again, this is going to be hard to see. Yep, there you see there. Okay, so if it does connect with an outside bit of the edge, so I'll do another one down here. It's been hacked. I tend to cut into that edge a little bit as well, because you know you'd get splintering and stuff. So where that one is, that's it. That's the one. This bit's been chunked out of his shield a little. There. So you've got a bit of battle damage on the shield. Now again, obviously I've not gone for bosses on my shields. So my suggestion is that if you do, maybe stick the bosses on first and then do the damage afterwards. And but I would do the grain first, because obviously when it sits on the top. But again, because this is plastic, this is really easy. You just literally glue the boss right on the middle. So this guy's just plastic on plastic. It's easy enough. It's really, really easy. Okay, alright, for that shield, I'm just going to quickly score up the back. I won't do all the shields like on my other videos. I'm not going to do 20 in front of you so you can sit there and yawn and fall asleep. It's probably boring enough just listening to my voice. Again, I wouldn't be too bothered about the back because it's not going to be seen. Right, next bit, you need the arm of what it is you're going to be sticking it onto. So I've got the arm there, the goblin. What I need is the super glue, because I'm not going to have enough time to use the poly. Yeah, it's cheap, sorry, it's cheap Poundland super glue, but that's me. I'm going to have time to do the poly cement. Obviously, use the poly cement if you've got the time. Obviously, for this tutorial, I want to speed things up a little bit because it's going to be annoying enough for you guys as it is. Right, so obviously, you want to clean up your arms, make sure all the mould lines and stuff have gone off it. Wow, I've been 23 minutes. It's going to be a fun one to load up on my laptop, I tell you, it takes ages. Right, okay, so that's good for me, that's good to go. Glue, you want to put it roughly in the sort of the middle of the arms, or the middle of the shield rather. Yep, it's loving me today, this glue. It's already rebelled a couple of times. Somewhere, yes, here it is. Unblock it. One of the perils of, or one of the many perils of using super glue is that they can get blocked up quite easily. Bit of paper clip seals to that. I think the lid on this one might have almost gone, so I might need to replace that with a notice board pin, which is a good way of replacing the lid normally. Okay, super glue is not wanting to play ball today. Oh, I've got it. Yay! Right. Let's have a little look. Ooh. How's he going to have hits? I'm going to go this way up, I think. Right, so before I glue it to my own hand, it's the other thing. Don't worry too much about the lumpy bit. I have a way of getting around that. I think it needs to be a little bit... Right, okay, so it's going to work better the other way up because of the size. Come on, you bugger. I think the weather being warm, it's making the glue dry a little bit quicker than normal. Right. And that wants to stick to my hand rather than the shield, which is always the way with super glue. Don't you just love it? Try and do something fast. It wants to sort of resist. Right. So that's the arm on the shield. Hopefully that will set quite quickly. Just to give you an idea, I've got some other goblins here ready to be going, so we'll get the same treatment. And you sort of dry fit the shield. First thing I would do in this scenario is green stuff. You want to take a little bit off, and I'm going to just brush some of this crap out of the way because the last thing you want is that getting in your green stuff. Get me two. Obviously, this is just, again, some people might not bother with this in the same way that you might not bother with it if you're doing just banging the shields on because you've got, you know, 20 or 30 of these guys to do, so that's fine. Just stick the shield on, you don't have to worry about this. I like it because I haven't done it on all of them because I've been a bit lazy, and some of them I seem to have got halfway through. If I find a decent one, yeah. So obviously on him you can see he's gripping his shield. It's just an extra touch. You don't have to do it. Like I say, it's not many people will see it from a distance, but it's just me being me, adding a little detail in. So again, I'm by no means a sculpting expert, but as you can see, it's not very difficult to make an L shape between the hand and the shield. So I'm just going to go like this, and you try and make it flat. There you go. That is basically all you have to do. And you do one of those top and bottom, so I'll do the other one in just a second. I tend to add a couple of little dots on there to make it look like it's been attached. So there you have it. You have a little one of those straps on a shield that he's holding on to. I suppose in theory there should be one further up his arm, but I really don't go that far. You really can't see that. Because normally I think on shields you put your arm through one loop and then you hold on to another one. Not very good with silences, that's to be said. I tend to do all my project work with either a movie on in the background or some music. It's still quirkiness, I guess. Especially when I've got soup on in the Random Platypus chat, and he's throwing me lots of really sort of weird, wonderful and colourful music links to listen to. Some of it's quite funky and cool, some of it's just a little bit odd. Right, so there you have it. I'll just add the little dots in to make it look like it's been nailed in. Again, another little touch, hardly anybody will ever see. But as you can see, he's now holding on to his shield, which is a good start. So at this point I would then glue the arm on. I know some people will go, oh no, paint it separately, but nah. I like putting them together, knowing what they look like when I'm painting them. So I'm just going to use super glue again on this guy because I don't want it to take ages for you. Hoping this will go on nicely. Yeah, it's typical. One time I want it to go on at a funny angle and it won't go on first time. I might have to put some green stuff in there later on to get it to work. I'm going to cheat a little because it's attaching to his head. When you've got multi-part figures, I think it's almost insane not to try and give them a bit more character. That's my opinion anyway. So, you know, it's very, when you look at these guys, I could just put them together really quite straightforward. So that is probably about as straightforward as you'll get. That arm is gone exactly as it's meant to. But with a little bit of work, you can do things like making them look a little bit mental, to be honest. So that was quite easy. It was just a bit of a leg reposition with a bit of green stuff to make his sort of skirt look a bit higher, or tunic, or whatever you want to call it. It's actually a common goblin head with I've sculpted on the hood for him. But there you go. Anyway, so whilst that's set, that is now set. Brilliant. Right, so you've got a shield and you've got a goblin sort of cowering under it whilst trying to stab out from underneath. Right, now we need to go back to the green stuff, which I'll go do. You want to do a small amount. So stick it on my nail. Hopefully it'll stick on my nail and you'll see what I mean by small amount. No, it's not playable. There you go. Right, so that's quite a small amount, yeah. You then want to work it out into a bit of a sausage. Roughly to the length across his shield, and then hopefully, with any luck, it will come out of your hand rather than stay stuck to your finger and fall off the shield. Right, let's start again. I'm going to do one of these on the camera because otherwise, again, you'll get bored. You then want to sort of flatten the green stuff out. Try and keep it as straight as you can, because I mean, goblins aren't stupid. They're not gonna, you know, it's meant to look a little rough looking, but not necessarily like a complete imbecile's put it together, because to be honest, they're meant to be cunning and clever, but just cowardly. So once you've got, you know, I've gone around and neatened up the edges a little bit here. Once you've kind of got that going on there, this way it gets really easy. So you can have them as straight as you want or as crookedy damaged as you want. If you've made cuts in here, you may want to where they sort of connect with this, you might want to do slashes or cuts into it. Again, that's sort of just to continue the line where it's been damaged. That's easy enough done, especially whilst it's like this. You then get your pointy device, which in this case is my bit of a dart, and you go along. This is the bit where I'm really rubbish getting it straight, and you push little holes in, make it look like it's been, the piece of metal's been hammered or screwed in. And that literally, obviously you do that, you can do 2 strips like I've done on my other shields, or you can do 1 strip across the middle, or you could use a boss, or you go around the outside. That's a possibility. I mean, these guys at the moment, I'm kind of aiming them to be used with Fantastic Saga, which you can find out about on Facebook, and I think there's a thread on Lead Adventure Forum. I might stick a thread up soon on Random Platypus for it, actually. It's a fan-made supplement to Saga, so you can use it with some fantasy forces that they've written the rules for. And it introduces things like magic users, monsters and war machines. So it's good fun. So anyway, that, as you can see, I don't need to do a second strip. You've kind of got the idea of how I've done it, although this bit isn't quite stretched out in both parts, but there you go. And that is quickly turned into one of these when you paint it. Yeah, it's not amazing. I'm sure other people will be able to do much more amazing ones. But if you have a go, come on to Random Platypus, show us what you've done. Hope this has been useful to somebody. A couple of people have asked, sort of, like I say, they said they like how I've done it. It's not particularly difficult. You get just a bit of plastic card and you can do it. Okay guys, so that's another one done. 35 minutes worth of a tutorial. Catch you guys next time. Bye.